Hello everyone, this is John Blackstone. Welcome. Today I'm going to do another episode about Elton John. One of my favorite subjects to talk about. I'm going to go back into time and reminisce about this sweet spot in my Elton fanaticism when I was a kid. It was the time when Elton was releasing covers like Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. Philadelphia Freedom had come out, and that was just like the song of the year for me. There was this syndicated radio show called American Top 40 with Casey Kasem. Every week, he would talk about the top 40 songs on the charts or the top 10 songs on the charts. But at the end of the year, he would always do a show like the single of the year, the song of the year. And I was so into Elton John, and I just thought for sure he's going to win this. Elton was like the biggest artist in the world at the time, and I thought for sure he's going to have the song of the year. He's going to win this. So this is a recording of me literally listening, waiting for Casey Kasem to announce the song of the year, and you'll hear my disappointment.
Like a riding old cowboy. Hey, 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 hey. Oh, lady, love is taking you for a ride. The only good thing about bad love is letting the slide. 34 number one songs from Billboard survey of the top 100 hits of 1975 from November to November. Here it is, the most popular song in America for the year 1975 by Mr. and Mrs. Daryl Dragon, better known as the Captain and Tennille. Here is Love Will...
Boo! 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 Elton John's the best. Boo! 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 Go sit on it, lady. Boo!
That boy ain't right.
What is this crap?
And now for something completely different.
And now back to your regularly scheduled program.
I was a true Elton fanatic. I was just obsessed with him. I had posters all over my wall. I bought every magazine I could find, every book I could find. It was such a magical time because his music was so amazing. I just remember going to the record store and buying Captain Fantastic the day it came out and opening it up. It was like opening up a treasure chest. Photos and little booklets and a poster, and I'd never seen anything like it, and I've never seen anything like it since. For me, Captain Fantastic and the Brown Dirt Cowboy is the finest album packaging that's ever been done. I would read all of the credits, who played on these songs and what each member played. Nigel and Dee and Davey and Gus. It wasn't just these songs, it was the sound of this music. I would sit with headphones on and just get lost in these incredible, beautiful landscapes of music that just, and it was just, I was just so into it. It was so magical for me. My friend Bruce and I, who I talk about on this show all the time, we used to pretend that we were Elton and his band. You know, when the Beatles came out, kids would use tennis rackets and pretend they were guitars. Well, Bruce and I used to pretend that we were the Elton John band. So I would usually play Elton, and Bruce always wanted to play Nigel. Smart guy. Which is funny because my friend Bruce became a drummer and we formed a band together. He was the drummer. So we used to put the records on and pretend that we were the band, and it was so fun. We had so much fun doing that. A couple of times we did kind of a fantasy thing where I was Elton and Bruce was Bernie. They go on these adventures driving around in their car, and then one time we did one where they got in an accident and I had to save Bernie's life. So funny. Help me, Elton. Help me. I'll be right there, Bernie. Hold on. During that magical period when it just seemed like Elton could do no wrong, he appeared in the movie Tommy as the pinball wizard. I was pretty young. I was 11 going on 12, and I wanted to see Tommy so bad. My mom wouldn't let me go. She just wouldn't let me go, and I was so bummed out about that. Ultimately, I kept bugging her about it, and finally she said, okay, you can go. And I went and saw Elton, a massive movie screen, in this fantastic sequence, the Pinball Wizard sequence, which to me is the whole movie Tommy.
He stands like a statue, he got wild on the machine, feeling on the bumpers, always playing clean.
That's just the best part of the film, and to this day I just think it's so beautiful the way it's shot, and it's colorful and interesting, and Elton's performance is awesome. He's so great in that role. If you watch his expressions and the things that he does, he's so good. And I was so frustrated about the fact that I couldn't buy Pinball Wizard, the single, because it wasn't released as an American single. It was only really a promotional single, I believe. I actually wrote to the Elton John fan club and asked them if they would please send me a copy. I have to have it. They didn't respond, unfortunately. I'll tell you one thing, though. I drove a lot of people crazy. For some reason, the Pinball Wizard single was circulating in jukeboxes. So every time that we'd go to the local pizza parlor or something, I would play Pinball Wizard over and over and over and over and over, literally just drive people nuts. One time, one of the patrons complained to the manager of the pizza place, and the manager came over and said, I'm sorry, will you ask your son to stop playing that song? It's so funny. I did the exact same thing with Six City, the B-side of Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me. I was just obsessed with that song. So I'd play that song over and over again. Crazy. But ultimately, I ended up buying the Tommy soundtrack, the 2-record set. I'm glad I did, because I learned about The Who, and there's so much great music on it and all these great musicians. And then, of course, I learned about Tommy, the whole project, Pete Townshend's Project Tommy, which is one of the greatest works of music ever. That was my door into The Who, and The Who are like one of my top 5 favorite bands. They're just incredible. So that's how I learned about The Who. I'm glad that Pinball Wizard was never released as a single. That opened my eyes and my ears to a whole nother world of music. I had desperately wanted to see Elton John in concert on the 1974 tour, and I was just a little bit too young. But when he came in 75 for the Rock of the Westies tour, my parents finally let me go. So I went with a group of school kids. These were kids that were from my neighborhood that I'd grown up with. You know, everybody was an Elton fan, especially teenagers and kids. Elton was on the top of the world at this time. He was the biggest entertainer in the world at the time. So we're going to go see Elton finally. It's my very first concert. I've never been to a concert, and I'm just experiencing all of this incredible excitement and incredible music. I was desperately hoping they would play Pinball Wizard. So we get to the end of the show and he doesn't play it. And I'm like, oh man, I really wanted to hear Pinball Wizard. We get up and there's like 6 of us kids, and we're walking out of the Coliseum. We're maybe a quarter of a mile away from the Coliseum, and suddenly I hear the intro to Pinball Wizard ringing through the evening air. It was his encore. And because we had never been to a concert before, we didn't know about encores. So I had waited all night for Pinball Wizard, only to miss it as the first encore they played that night. What a drag. I learned that there was going to be a program on ABC television. They would do these weird weekend shows about entertainment, and this one was called Wide World of Entertainment, I believe. And it was David Frost, and it was the premiere party for the movie Tommy. So I was obviously excited because I knew Elton was going to be on it. You know, in those days, there was no way to record video. If you didn't catch it on television, you were out of luck. That was it. So I pulled out my cassette recorder and I put it in front of the TV set and I recorded this special.
To what extent do you think, Elton, that your childhood formed what you are today? I mean, how much can you trace back your inspirations to your childhood, to your mother, to your father, and so on?
I think my childhood has a great effect on what I'm doing now.
I was super excited about this television special because Elton was going to be on it. It was the weirdest time in entertainment because all the young rock stars and musicians and actors were mingling with all these old school Hollywood people. And this show is a classic example of the clashing of two worlds. This is this big party with Elton John and The Who and all these rock music people. And then you've got people like Dean Martin and David Jansen and Carl Reiner. These people have no way of relating to what this movie is about. The movie is weird enough as it is, much less being somebody from old Hollywood. And I'm sure there were many eyes rolling that night in the theater. But that was kind of the way entertainment was in those days, like these 1970s variety shows that would be these weird combinations of new Hollywood and old Hollywood. You'd have the Brady Bunch Variety Hour with Milton Berle. It seems like Milton Berle was always showing up on these shows. The Donnie and Marie show, and it would be Lucille Ball, Jerry Lewis, or whatever. It would just be these weird combinations, and this show is a prime example of that. The ultimate example is when David Frost is interviewing Dean Martin as he's walking into the premiere. I was just thinking, what in the world? Dean Martin, you know, who hangs out with Frank Sinatra and all these great artists from the past, he's going to go in with his wife and sit down and watch Tommy. Would have loved to have been a fly on the wall for that. So the show basically begins with all these actors and stars rolling in, and then Elton pulls up. I think it's on Hollywood Boulevard, the theater. It's Grauman's Chinese Theater. And everybody that's there is very clearly there for Elton John. They just erupt in screams when he comes out.
We'd like to say hello now to the star of the Tommy, Mr. Elton John. Good evening.
You know, Elton was the biggest star in the world. I mean, he was like on top of the world. There was nobody bigger than him. And I think the filmmakers were probably banking on that fact. It was a major score for them to get Elton to be in Tommy, although The Who were very popular. One of the biggest rock bands, along with Led Zeppelin and Pink Floyd and McCartney. This entire show basically revolves around Elton's Pinball Wizard. That's the song they keep playing in the background. And then there's this weird dance troupe. They just appear out of nowhere. It's so bizarre. These shows were so bizarre. They look like characters from Fat Albert and the Cosby Kids. So weird. And then we have Tony Orlando, you know, of Tie a Yellow Ribbon Round the Old Oak Tree, who was about as hip to the rock music scene as Taylor Swift is to Joni Mitchell. I mean, we're just talking about two totally different worlds. Just a little aside, I'll never forget, in Barry Williams' book titled Growing Up Brady, he was talking about when they were trying to turn the Brady kids into a music act. You know, the kids would dance and sing. And he said that when they were doing their debut show show in Las Vegas that Tony Orlando was right in the very front row, and he was going, yeah, just totally into it. And then he said after they finished the show, Tony Orlando came backstage and said, "You guys are going to the very top." That's so funny. My point being, Tony Orlando, not the most hip guy in the world.
Just give me some of that good old rock.
Keep on dancing all through the night.
It seemed my life was always out of tune.
You are a superstar. You are the new Johnny Bravo. Johnny Bravo. Johnny Bravo.
At one point, David Frost interviews David Jansen, who knows nothing about modern music.
Are you a great admirer of modern music? Are you very hip?
No, I don't know. How do you spell that, David?
It's like, why is he here? What is this show? What is happening here? And then at another point, David Frost interviews Paul and Linda McCartney. David Frost is asking these really dud questions. And of course, no television variety special would be complete without Madame and Waylon Flowers. Only people that were alive in the 70s would understand this. I can't even begin to describe what they were, what they represent. I'm no wiser to it today than I was then. This show is so weird, but it's really entertaining because it's so bizarre. It's such a weird hodgepodge of experiences, and definitely didn't go off well. I'm sure it wasn't regarded as a success as television entertainment. The golden center, the best part of this show, is the interview with Elton. David Frost asks excellent questions, and Elton, being on the peak of his career and the peak of his fame, seems really introspective. I think it's the best Elton John interview for my money. It's my favorite Elton John interview ever. Very interesting. So I'm glad that you joined me for this little look back at this magical time in 1975 when Elton was on top of the world and making such incredible music. It was just a magical, magical time. I don't think people today could even begin to understand how special that was. Please please subscribe. It really does help me. And let me know what you think in the comments. I always love hearing from you. I read all of your comments. I really do.
Well, fans, that was our great show for today. Hope you liked it. We'll have another show tomorrow. But for now, goodbye.
This portion of Wide World Special is brought...
Hello, good evening and greetings, and it's a warm welcome to our premiere party right here, and this is David Frost welcoming you to the happening that you're about to share for the next 90 minutes, and the festive evening begins. Army Archer is greeting the celebrities as they arrive, thronging into the foyer for the premiere performance right here of Tommy.
As you can see, it was a night with all the glamour and all the insanity traditionally associated with a Hollywood premiere. We'll be visiting in the next 90 minutes both New York and London, but right now, glimpses of some of the people we'll be meeting later. Anne Margaret, Elton John, Paul and Linda McCartney, Dean Martin, Catherine, Diana Ross back from Rome, Tatum O'Neill, Richard Chamberlain looking extremely happy, Tommy Smothers and Dick Smothers looking equally happy, Valerie Perrine, Carl Reiner grabbing at the lifeline, David Jansen, there's Tony Orlando, Sally Kellerman, Rod McEwen, Waylon Flowers, The Lockers, Flash Cadillac and the Continental Kids, Tommy himself, Roger Daltrey, Keith Moon, Creator, Pete Townsend, and scenes from the movie Tommy, Tina Turner, Oliver Reed, and of course Jack Nicholson. More from all of them later, but right now, over to Army Archer.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, one of the great stars of show business, the Academy Award nominee, a record buster wherever she plays in the United States or abroad. The star of Tommy, Miss Anne Margaret. Academy Award nominee for her great performance in Lenny, Miss Valerie Perrine. Valerie, good evening.
Good evening.
Oh, you look so lovely this evening, does it?
It's like an old Hollywood premiere.
Well, it's a new Hollywood premiere. And now we'd like to say a wonderful welcome and a welcome home to Academy Award nominee, a great performer, Miss Diana Ross. Good evening, Diana. The cameras can see it. Oh, you look so very lovely. Tell us about your fabulous outfit.
What can I tell you? It's just an outfit. I think I'm going to be warm inside there, though it looks crowded.
Thanks so very much. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to say hello to an Academy Award winner, a very talented and a very lovely young lady, Tatum O'Neal. Good evening, Tatum. You are very glittery this evening. I wonder if our cameras can take a look at those great How did you do those eyebrows, Tatum? Eyelash.
Glue.
You glued all that glitter?
Glitter.
That is really some glitter. Thanks very much, Tatum O'Neal. I wonder if we can get Miss Sally Kellerman to say hello. Sally, we're right over here. First, we have to say hello to our friends. Sally, how are you? Can we say hello? Hi, how are you? Thank you.
Hi, good to see you.
Nice to see you. Don't you look lovely?
Well, thank you.
Ready for a rock opera?
I'm ready for this rock opera.
Of course, music is really what? Is that your first love or your second love these days?
My all mixed together love.
Mixed together.
Yeah. I've seen this film. I think it's fantastic.
Well, the proof of how great it is that you're back here again to see it again this evening.
Yeah, great. And Margaret's terrific, too.
Thanks so very much. Carl Reiner, I might know we'd find you here. Ladies and gentlemen, Mrs. Reiner.
How are you?
All right. Good. Now you say that he is the rock fan.
He knows more about this movie than I do. He knows who's in it. Who's in it?
We all know who's in it. And if you don't know who's in this, Carl,
No, but I mean the who means more to him than to me. Who is who? But he knows who is. Who is they? They are who, and who are they? They are great, and he knows who.
And I thank you very much. And now let's say hello to a gentleman who really knows his music, Mr. Dean Martin. How are you, Dean? All right. We look forward to seeing you pretty soon back up at the MGM Grand.
We open April the 2nd.
April the 2nd.
And I close April the 3rd.
We know better than that. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. and Mrs. Dean Martin. Everyone, please step back now. Step back so we can all be safe and enjoy the premiere of Tommy. Ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to say hello now to one of the stars of Tommy, Mr. Elton John. Good evening, Elton. How are you? Good evening. It's a little noisy. If you'll all step back, if everyone will please step back. Elton was this premiere like this in New York. I think we're going to go. And Elton, we're going to let you go inside. All right, kids, everybody please step back.
Well, that was Greg, and that was Penguin, and this is the Studio One Club in Hollywood called Tommy's Place just for tonight. Because it's here that the super party for the movie premiere is about to swing into high gear. The movie's just letting out. We've been transported by the magic of television to Lapeer Avenue right here, and the guests should be arriving at any moment. I'm moving on inside now to grab a few words with some of them as they arrive, so stay with us. David, welcome to the party.
Hiya, David.
And congratulations on the success of the series, etc.
All right. It's, beginning to build. I think we're doing a better job now.
Are you a great admirer of modern music? Are you very hip?
No, I don't know. How do you spell that, David?
What's the most musical thing you've done in your varied career?
Well, I had the pleasure of seeing Lena Horne and Tony Bennett last evening at their premiere. And I once did a musical special with Lena Horne, and she talked me into singing a song with her. That was a big thrill for me. She's never asked me to sing another song with her, David, but win a few, lose a few.
Win a few, lose a few. What ambitions do you have left? Friends all around. What ambitions do you have left now, David?
All of them. And one has to keep going, even though I have gray hair, David. It's not over yet. We've still got a few years. Got to keep going.
David, thank you very much indeed. Yes, indeed. See you inside for a drink. Thank you, David. I'm sitting here right now, and it's a delightful reunion with Paul and Linda McCartney. Did you enjoy the film?
Really, very much.
It was lovely, David. Thank you.
It's amazingly good to see you here. What, in fact, are you doing in this fair city?
Recording an LP. I thought I told you that before, Dave.
No, it was before our friends joined us.
Ah, of course.
You see, and our friends wanted to know that.
Yes.
Say hello to our friends then.
Howdy, folks.
Have you ever been tempted to do anything as wide-ranging as this? I mean, in terms of a 2-hour rock opera or something? I know you're doing an album and so on, but...
Not yet. No, but I'm quite willing to be tempted, David.
Tempt him, David.
I'll try and tempt you, absolutely. No, but I mean, is it more difficult or is it tempting to do something like this? I mean, as opposed to taking one song, the idea of doing a whole overall conception.
The only thing is to kind of make it last for the full length of a film. You find, I suppose you find yourself stretching it a bit, But I might do that, yeah.
Did you feel that people in general around the country will appreciate this, or that, I mean, you're very much in the modern music scene. Do you think people who are not will understand this?
I think, hey, Mooney!
Yeah, what? Yes, I think
younger people, too, will appreciate it more, myself.
But what about older people?
Fellas in the shorts?
Yes, I don't know what they're doing here. They're a mystery to me. I don't know.
It's all right. They're with the club.
They're all right, are they? They're all right. They're on the right side. But what's the most ambitious of all the songs you've written so far? What's the most ambitious? What's the one people have found most difficult to understand?
I don't really know, Dave. I've done one or two of them, and I really couldn't tell you. This Dave, an old friend of mine. Go back years.
Absolutely, go back years. Eons. But our audiences here in Los Angeles, for instance, more appreciative than British audience?
I think they like the English thing, like we like the Americans, because there's a glamour attached to the foreign thing. They like kind of...
British.
I think so.
Yeah. British.
So that you're an exotic creature when it comes to England.
This is true. This is what we find, yeah. I'm getting some scales on my back, though.
This is what we find. Thank you for joining us. I hope you'll have a glorious drink and a glorious dance, and I'll see you in a minute.
Thank you, David, and good night.
Stay with us as ABC brings you Anne Margaret, Elton John, the Smothers Brothers, Tony Orlando, and many more from Hollywood, New York, and London on Super Party. Okay, yelling in the background there is excitement on the pinball machines and excitement right up here, of course, with Tom and Dick Smothers. What was both of your reaction to the festivities tonight? The film first.
I thought that film was fantastic. It is really an exciting film. I think I love, first of all, I love the director. I think I saw him in The Devils. I saw some of his other movies, and this is like a step beyond Hair. I think it's another generation of pop opera.
Did you feel that as well, Thomas?
I didn't get to see the film. I didn't show up because I actually thought the film was. I was late. But I saw the play. I read the book, and I thought when it came out that it was about me. And it was kind of a shock that I found out that it wasn't about me. But then when they told me it was about a blind guy, yeah, I knew it was about me.
Not his brother.
But if you had seen the film, do you think you would have enjoyed it?
Of course. My brother and I are inseparable. His taste is my taste, and it's the truth. And I just missed it. I'm going to see it for sure. Dickie...
I tell you, there are so many elements in the movie that it takes a while to digest what you see. And it's not a bunch of, you know...
No,
there's so many elements in that movie.
I was laughing at our helpful friend.
I gotta tell you that I was very straight when I saw it. I had nothing to drink. I had no dinner. I came with a light stomach. I was hungry.
Yes.
I waited a half hour for the movie. It was
very impressive.
It was very impressive. I thought Tina Turner was great.
What about someone was saying something about that Tommy was originally devised in 1969, and in some ways it is a little bit out of date. Did you find it was at all out of date in its concern with acid and things like that?
No, and I don't think the young people find it out of date.
And what's the subject that makes you really angry at the moment, that you'd really like to do something about?
General immorality and lack of concern by the non-personal corporate thinking.
That's a pretty good answer. Would you add anything to that?
No, that's absolutely what's the problem.
Thank you both very much indeed. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sitting here right now, as you can see, with Mr. and Mrs. Tony Orlando, Elaine and Tony. Welcome, Elaine.
Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you.
Very good to see you again. The last time was several years ago, on my show, many moons ago.
As a matter of fact, it was on your show that myself and the ladies did our first recording. It was a song called Candida. I'll never forget it because David introduced us as a new group with a million-selling record called Canada. And as I went home to my mother and friends, they went, "See, kid? See that?
Did I really do that? That is so bad. That is so. I once introduced the greatest hunter of Nazis in the world, Simon Wiesenthal, as Adolf Wiesenthal. So that was even worse. Let me console you with it. But everything has gone superb.
You thought that way, actually, David.
No, on my scribbling pad. But congratulations on everything that's gone on in the meantime. You're a record producer as well. What is your feeling about Tommy?
Well, number one, starting in the record business, David, to see a film be created from a record album, from a musical group, number one, is a total event for me as a member of the record business and a music publisher and a record producer myself. So I was very proud to see that happen. It's a reversal of what normally goes on. But the motion picture number one was kept totally 100% to the music and the opera itself. I thought the marriages of some of the visual effects to the music were unbelievable. The film was really fabulous, David.
To you, it was just being at home. Tony, thank you very much. Elaine, thank you very much. In just a moment, we'll be seeing the film magic of director Ken Russell with the pinball wizard himself, Elton John.
This portion of Wide World Special is brought...
Before the premiere of the show here in Los Angeles, we were fortunate enough in New York to talk with Elton John, the pinball wizard himself, who has that contest, that pinball contest, with Tommy in the movie. So before we actually talk to Elton in a slightly quieter atmosphere than this, let's take a look at Elton in action in the movie. And now it's my pleasure to be talking with a man who's been described as the most popular musician, the most popular singer in the world right now, Mr. Elton John. Elton, it's a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you.
What was it that really persuaded you to be the pinball wizard?
Well, when Pete phoned me up and asked me, he said, "You're going to sing Pinball Wizard," that was really enough because it's one of my favourite rock and roll songs. It's one that The Who have really made an institution for themselves. And I was sort of interested in the challenge, will I be able to do justice to the song? And that's what really sold me. And then Ken Russell explained what he was going to do with the sequence and how he was going to shoot it, and I'd have to wear stilts and things. So I was more or less sold right from the word go.
And that persuaded you to do the actual thing. But the boots were how big?
Well, I can't really give you an exact... I can't remember how exactly the measurements, but I think they're about 3.5 foot, 3 foot, something like that. They were high. They were tall, and I was petrified.
Petrified?
Yes. Well, I'm not very good on heights. I'm all right in an aeroplane 35,000 feet up, except when they put the old fasten the safety belt thing up. But and these boots were a bit nerve-wracking because if you fell over in them, you'd break your leg or break your neck. But eventually I got used to them because, as Ken said, if you wore those silly shoes that you used to wear, you can get used to these. And after 2 days of filming, I was doing the Charleston and things like that. running the mile in 4 minutes, you know.
And what about the actual overall epic? I mean, Tommy, as you've listened to it and seen it and so on, what does it actually mean? What meaning does it have for you, the overall thing?
Well, I've seen it a few times, and it changes every time I see it. And so there's something different to be picked up in each sequence every time you look at it. I just get a feeling of people searching for something, finding it, and then becoming disillusioned. People are always searching for a god or a figure that they're looking for the savior, the Messiah, to come down and save us all. And I don't know, Tommy is that, and then he lets them down. That's what I feel about it.
But you must have had some of those experiences in a way yourself. I mean, in the sense of having a multitude of people almost worshipping you. I mean, tremendous fan-like adoration, haven't you? I mean, in various auditoria where you've had vast crowds.
Usually people that worship me are my butcher and baker and things. Yeah. He's around again. No, yeah, I suppose
you must have had that feeling emanating.
Oh, yes, when you do a concert tour, you know, you think, they must be mad, they like me. I don't think it relates very much, as hysteria goes to me, as it would have done to the Beatles and the Stones, perhaps, or teeny bopper groups like the Osmonds and things, when they sort of have mass hysteria. But it has happened to me. You sort of get a...
When, for example?
Well, you do get a sort of feeling of power now and again. And sometimes I've had a feeling of power 2 or 3 times, and I've used it on one occasion to bad effects.
What happened?
Well, we were playing Baltimore Civic Center or Civic Auditorium, which I'm now banned from. I don't want him, we'll have Grand Funk next week. It was the middle of a concert, and the audience was sort of sitting 20 yards away, which always puts me off anyway, and there was a sort of rope. So anytime any one of the audience stood up, there was a flashlight shone in their face by a security guard. So when you're singing Daniel or something like that, and very romantic, and you see millions of flashlights going off and people told to sit down, it sort of puts you off. And I hate audiences who pay good money to see you. Especially my audiences aren't a violent type of audience at all. I don't like to see them abused. I got gradually through the whole show, I was getting more and more worked up. And eventually a girl came forward to take a photograph. And this huge security guy picked her up, threw her about 20 feet, smashed her camera, and knocked the girl out. And I got up from the piano in the middle of a number, jumped off the stage, and chased this huge security guard out, more or less out the building. I must have been mad. Anyway, I was so annoyed, and I got back on stage and said, listen, if the security guards aren't removed, I won't continue the show. So I went off stage for about 2 minutes, and eventually the security guards were removed. So then I said the silliest thing, listen, it's your show, come down the front, do what you want. And because they came down the front, and someone could have got killed because there was a big sort of stampede down the front. And that's when I realized afterwards that by saying that, I could have sort of caused someone to be trampled on or even killed. It's ridiculous because at the time you're getting carried away, well, I'm doing the right thing, and then I could have been doing totally the wrong thing.
What's the most emotional song you've ever done, do you think? I mean, most meaningful emotional song?
It's hard. It's bad. I can't... People ask me this all the time, and I can never really give them a concrete answer. I think, obviously, it has to be a slow song, because slow songs are the best songs to sing, for me anyway. Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me or Your Song. Songs that, like Your Song, I keep saying I'm not going to sing that anymore, and I still enjoy singing it, so I do. Daniel, I really liked, as far as emotion goes. But I think Don't Let the Sun... But on the new album that's coming out called Captain Fantastic and the Brown Dirt Cowboy, there are 2 very emotional songs. They're very sort of autobiographical songs. One's called Someone Saved My Life Tonight, and there's another one called We All Fall in Love Sometimes. And I suppose they're the most emotional things I've written to date.
And how are they autobiographical? How did someone save your life?
Well, I was living with a lady for about 6 months who didn't really like my music. I was sort of liked her, but she didn't like my music and kept telling me I was rubbish and I'd never make it. Come out wherever you are. I haven't seen her since, by the way. And she was always saying, you better be off being a bank manager or something like that. I got very depressed, and I was due to marry her. I got the cake and everything like that, and the flat and the furniture, and I went out to a nightclub and met Long John Baldry, who I was backing at the time. And he said, you're mad to get married because she doesn't appreciate your music. And he knew I was totally wrapped up in music. So I went home and said, that's it, it's off. I got sued for breach of promise, which I got out of, and it more or less saved my life, because otherwise, if I'd have got married at that particular point in time, I think it would have been goodbye Elton John, you know. So I wasn't Elton John at the time, actually.
Were you still Reg Dwight?
I was still Reg Dwight, yes.
But, gosh, I can't see you as a bank manager either.
Well, I look like a bank manager. That's why I always say when people say, what do you describe yourself as? I say, well, like a freaked out bank manager. I'm not your actual Mick Jagger or anybody, or your David Bowie. I'm sort of like the boy next door who freaked out all of a sudden.
We'll be continuing with Elton John in a few moments, plus Anne Margaret, Valerie Perrine, Richard Chamberlain, Diana Ross, and many more at Super Parties.
To what extent do you think, Elton, that your childhood formed what you are today? I mean, how much can you trace back your inspirations to your childhood, to your mother, to your father, and so on?
I think my childhood has a great effect on what I'm doing now, in the fact that I was always suppressed as a child. My mother gave me encouragement. My father was a very big snob. He was in the Air Force, and he wouldn't let me kick the ball in the garden in case I touched the rose bushes, that sort of effort. And I was always sort of forced to practice the piano for 3 hours, and he was very, very strict, and I never saw him for years on end, because he used to be going to Beirut and places like that. And so I was always sort of very much aware that I had a very strict upbringing, and I was always very quiet and timid. And this gave me great ambition, I think. I knew what I wanted to do. I didn't want to be a classical pianist. I wanted to be a pop singer or a pop pianist, because I was influenced by, initially, people like Guy Mitchell and Frankie Lane. And so that gave me a great sort of... And I was always very fat as a child as well. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that added to my complexes. And I could never get into the modern clothes. And so when everyone was walking around in drainpipe trousers, here are my folks in baggy trousers. It was, and it all built up. And so when people say, well, why do you wear flamboyant clothes now, and why do you do this and that? I never really was allowed to do it until I was about 21, when I was my own boss anyway. So I think that really sort of... I had such a miserable existence as a child and a teenager. I regard myself as a teenager now, even though I'm 28 nearly.
But did you, in your... performing life, did you do any performing at all during that miserable period as a child?
I was in a semi-professional group. My parents, I must hasten to add, divorced when I was 14. And then my stepfather entered the scene, and he was much more encouraging. And my mother, who'd always encouraged me, but sort of had head-on battles with my father. So it gelled together, and we went through a very poor period because of the divorce situation. We lived more or less in very bad conditions. And I played the piano in a pub for a year, every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. A public house, and I used to get paid £1 a night. And then my father used to come and take the box around, and I got paid £1 a night by the management of the pub, and then the customers I used to pack the place out, and I started singing Jim Reeves songs. And my father used to take the box around. I used to get a fortune, about 25 quid a week, which enabled me to buy my electric piano and start sort of buying equipment for the group.
And were these people your inspiration? Frankie Lane, Guy Mitchell,
yes.
Jim Reeves?
Well, especially, I think people like Frankie Lane and Guy Mitchell, Johnny Ray, Nellie Lutcher, Kay Starr. Especially, my piano inspirations came from a lady who was very popular in England, Winifred Atwell. Yes. She was immensely popular in England, and that was the first person I really modelled myself on. And my father, I always remember, was very influenced. He used to play a bit of piano, and he liked George Shearing, and I used to like his records too.
This is your stepfather liked George?
No, my real father. My real father was a snob, but he used to play in the Bob Miller and the Millermen band, which you all have heard of, but nobody in America would have done. It was a sort of dance band in England. But the Air Force creates snob. He wanted me to be again a bank manager. It seems to be my whole life should have been a bank manager, or someone who worked for British Airways or something like that, something respectable. In fact, my mother still has a letter from my father when I was 16, and saying that it says, Reggie must give up this idea of becoming a pop musician. He's turning into a wide boy. And she still has the letter at home. And I've got I didn't bear any grudge against my father. I just felt a bit sorry for him. Also, he said he hated children. I didn't, and I was a mistake and all that bit. And when they divorced, my father got married again and had 4 kids in 4 years. And I thought, I know he married a Catholic lady, but that's ridiculous. So, you tend to think, I should be resentful, but I don't. I'm not resentful at all. In fact, I see him whenever I play Liverpool. He comes to the concerts, and I get on fine, but I don't bear any grudges, but I think in a way he was instrumental in making me so ambitious that I sort of was forced to make it in a way.
And that, yes, that obviously influenced you. Was, in fact, the period of the divorce more traumatic than the period before the divorce, or was the divorce really a relief?
The divorce was a relief because it was just a relief for me because I really got on well with my stepfather. And obviously my mother, the reason they got divorced is because my mother was having an affair with my stepfather. Little did my mother know that my father was also having an affair with another lady. But now, you know, I was so relieved. I so wanted my stepfather to be my father in a way, because I got on well with him, and he took an interest in me, and he was, you know, he did things for I did things for him, he did things for me. I never can remember once doing something for my father that I really enjoyed doing. I mean, there was no love lost when the divorce happened.
And when was the first job? What age were you when you took your first job?
Well, I left school when I was 17. And I became a tea-boy in a music publishing firm in Denmark Street, Mills Music. And I worked there for a year and I thoroughly enjoyed it, wrapping up parcels and everything. I loved it. And at the time I was in the semi-professional group. And we were semi-professional for a year, and then we turned professional when I was 18, and we backed American soul singers that came over to England. People like Doris Troy, Major Lance, Patti LaBelle and the Bells, and now LaBelle. We did all that for about 2 years and earned about 15 quid a week, which we thought was fantastic. And that's really the first time we worked professionally.
So really most of the influences on you have been American rather than British, haven't they?
Totally. Yes, I mean, as I say, I think in the 50s American music was very much the fore in England. We had very few stars of our own, except people like Vera Lynn and David Whitfield, Dickie Valentine, people like that. It was totally all Johnny Ray and all that lot. And I was totally influenced by American music, especially when rock and roll came into existence. I think the first time England began to assert itself as a musical force was when the Beatles happened, and then it sort of turned full circle.
Elton, thank you so much for this conversation. We'll be right back. In fact, we'll be right back in California with Flash Cadillac, the pinball competition with Anne Margaret, Elton John, Pete Townsend and Diana Ross, and much more. We're on the verge of a vital contest here. ABC Wide World of Entertainment is becoming ABC Wide World of Sports as the mighty pinball competition gets underway. On my right, Elton John, assisted by his second, Mr. Stigwood. Next to him is Anne Margaret here, assisted by her second, Mr. Pete Townsend. And here, Miss Diana Ross, all on her own here. A nation's sympathy as she fights alone. But Marty Allen's there behind her. So underway, ready, steady, go. And the winner of the competition, level second, was Mr. Elton John and Miss Diana Ross, and the winner was Miss Anne Margaret.
Well, there's a tremendous variety of people, as you've seen here at the premiere party tonight, and one of them, just adding to that variety, is Madame, along with her friend, Wayland Flowers over there. What did you think of the film?
What did I think of the film? Well, I'll tell you, in my day, David, we didn't need faces, we had voices. But however, before that, we did have silent movies. And I do think that Tommy is a silent movie with sound. Figure that one out.
Yes, what do you mean exactly by that, Madame?
What do I mean by that? Well, I mean that anyone could watch that movie without sound and still get it.
What about the young people? Do you think the young people will love it, Madame?
Oh, I
worry about age, perhaps, yourself?
I never have worried about age. Never in my life. I have, you know, I still keep trucking no matter what. Full tilt boogie, they call me.
Full tilt boogie. Why full tilt boogie?
Oh, I don't know. I just don't give up. I think a lot
Is
of
that your motto in life?
Certainly is. I see a lot of older people getting along, you know, and they've given up. I have never given up, and I will never until they shove me in that box, if you know what I mean.
Have you got a message for the people at home? That's what they really need at this time in history. A little poem or something for the people?
Well, I have something I would like to tell everyone. Honey, I've been from Bangkok to Bangladesh, done everything twice, hated it both times. But let me tell you this, David, when you get my age and you haven't done it all, and you bend down to adjust your wedges, and you see peanuts and see confetti, you know the parade has passed you by. That's what I got to tell them.
Madame.
We'll be right back with Anne Margaret as herself and as Tommy's mother.